morning, good morning, good morning. And thank you so much for joining me for the podcast of the True Power from Within. I do pray each and every day that this podcast touches you in the most amazing and encouraging way. So, today I have labeled this podcast from the place of starting over. And I'm going to tell you, in society today, I think a lot of us we steer away from things when maybe we've done it before and we failed at it, or maybe we feel like we were publicly humiliated or we were labeled by society in certain situations, and so we steer away from those types of situations again, right? So I'm not talking about things like addiction or prison or any of that, but let's just talk about social media for a second, right? So if you post a post on social media and you're being vulnerable and you're being authentic and you're being genuine, and then you get totally dehumanized behind the social media post, right? You're probably going to refrain from being vulnerable again, right? And I think that in society, we feel like taking risk is something that we don't want to do because we feel like we may have to start over, right? We feel like if we fail, then we have to start over. If we are unsuccessful, we have to start over, right? If we do something wrong, and we have to go to God about it, right? We feel like we have, fallen short, and that, God's not going to give us a second chance, or he's not going to give us that grace or that mercy. And I can tell you that at a certain point in my life, I felt like this, right? When you're coming out of prison and you're coming out of an addiction and you have had, you've been abused and broken and all of this stuff, coming out and starting a life over is a scary thing. It's scary because, for one, you don't know what people are going to say about you. Two, it's unknown, right? It's uncomfortable. And, I think in life we refrain from doing things in our life because we're so afraid, right? We're afraid of starting over. We're afraid of trying something new. We're afraid that God isn't going to give us that second chance, right? But he gave me this tidbit yesterday, right? But I've said this before, I'm a personal development junkie, okay? I believe that I cannot come on here and talk to you and do a podcast if I only read my Bible once a month, right? I can't come on here and do a podcast and talk to you about certain things if I am not growing and becoming every day. And I will tell you that my husband and I were having a conversation the other night, and I also did a social media post about this yesterday. But I feel like I am at a place right now that I think I'm more self-aware and I am more focused than I have ever been in my whole life. I think I'm more at peace than I've ever been in my whole life because I have committed to being my true, authentic, and genuine self, right? I have shaken off, the society labels. I have shaken off, the fear of people judging me because of my past or because of my story. And when we realize that God is a God of starting over, right? He's a God of second chances. And sometimes we're more involved in our circumstances than we are in our relationship with God. And I heard somebody say something on a podcast that was very profound to me, but she says that our faith has to be more in what he can do and not in our circumstances. And I think that's so true. Our faith has to be more grounded in him than in our circumstances. Because we get so distracted by our circumstances that we forget who the source is. We forget that we can go to God. We forget that, those blessings that we've been waiting on for so long that we could be walking in just a short period of time. because we're so grounded in our circumstances. But God gave me the story of Noah yesterday. We all know Noah, and we've all heard about Noah as a kid in Bible, in Bible school, and Sunday morning um, children's church and all of this stuff, right? We've all heard the story of Noah. But here's what I want to really hone in on today, okay? So God told Noah to build an ark, take 2 of every animal, take his wife, take his kids, get on the ark because he is going to flood the earth, right? So God floods the earth. He wipes everything out except those things that are on the ark, right? The people, the animals, he wipes it out, right? But then once the flood stops, the water recedes, he says in Genesis 8, okay, Genesis 8, chapter 15, verse 15, it says, Then God spoke to Noah, Come out of the ark, you, your wife, your sons, and your sons' wives with you. Bring all of the living creatures that are with you, birds, livestock, those that crawl on the earth, and they will spread over the earth and be fruitful and multiply. Then in chapter 9, verse 1, he says the exact same thing. God blessed Noah and his sons and said to them, Be fruitful and multiply and fill the earth. So we think of this as, okay, so, this is just a story that we learn as a kid. But to me, it says something very profound. It tells us that God is a God of starting over, right? Because we know the story of Adam and Eve. We know the story where he created the earth. Then he created Adam. Then he created Eve, right? And then, we all know about the apple and the serpent and all of these things, right? But then God says, you know what? I'm going to start this over, right? I need a fresh start, right? We need to just erase what's happened, and let's go ahead and start over. So that's what he did, right? But here's what I want you to know, all right? Not only is a God of starting over, okay? We see this in Genesis 8, verse 15. We see it in Genesis 9, verse 1. We see that God says, take what is left, all right? Take what is left, be fruitful, and multiply. So here's what I want to tell you today. I know that your circumstances may look dark, and I know that it may be easier for you to say it's just easier to quit and just do something else, right? Or maybe it's just easier to quit and just forget that even happened. Maybe it's just easier for me not to post on social media. Maybe it's better for me to try to be somebody else instead of being my true authentic self because people don't like me. But here's what I want to tell you, okay? God is a God of starting over. And just like we see in the story of Noah, all right? God can take what is left and multiply it. Here's another thing that I see about the story of Noah. God is a God of multiplication, right? He's not a God of addition. He's not a God of subtraction. He is a God of multiplication, okay? And we all know that in multiplication, you don't need much, right? You don't need much to make a lot, right? So in this, we are learning that God is a God of starting over. But here is the key. God will take what is left, okay? God doesn't need a perfect human, right? God doesn't need you to be rich and have a big house and fancy cars and for you to be a perfect person with a PhD and perfect kids. No. God says, I can take what is left and I can multiply it and I can make it fruitful. But we get so focused on what we don't have that we forget to be reminded of what we do have. Maybe you don't have $1 million in your bank account. Maybe you don't have the car that you want or the house that you want, or, maybe your kids aren't acting right, or maybe you feel unworthy, or you feel like you're not enough, or you feel like, you've been doing everything you can to change your life and you just feel like nothing is working. God says, listen, I can take what is left and multiply it to be fruitful. God doesn't have to have all of these fancy things. Okay? You do not have to be a perfect person for God to work in your life. You do not have to have it all together for God to work in your life. He is saying to us today, through this word, through the story of Noah, that he is a God of starting over. So even though you may have to start over, even though it may be risky, you may have to go through a few things, and it may be a little dark, and it may be a little trying, and it may be a little risky, but he's saying, I can take what's left and multiply that in your life. I don't have to have all of these fancy things to multiply. I am a God of the impossible. I am a God who can do all things. I don't need these big things to create and multiply and produce fruit in your life. So today I want to tell you, I want to tell you this. Stop thinking about giving up. Stop thinking about quitting just because it doesn't look like what you have is enough. Stop telling yourself that you're not good enough. Stop telling yourself that you are not worthy. Stop telling yourself that your life is never going to change. Because God is a God of starting over. He is a God of having not enough and multiplying it and making it more than enough. Where God created a vision, he will also give provision. And God has a vision for your life. But he's saying, can you truly and genuinely be your authentic self? Because I don't need you to be somebody else. I need you to be you in all your glory, because you're unique. I created you. I am the creator. I am your manufacturer. I heard an analogy and I thought it was really, really good. So I heard an analogy. Okay, so, I have an iPhone, right? I have an iPhone. And if my iPhone was to break, right, I wouldn't take my iPhone to Samsung. I wouldn't take my iPhone to, I don't even know, T-Mobile, right? I wouldn't take my iPhone anywhere other than to the Apple store, right? Because Apple is the manufacturer. Okay? Y'all, I'm sorry if y'all hear my husband up there coughing. Apple is the manufacturer of this. Okay? So I would not take my phone to Samsung and say, here, can you fix this? No. I would take it to Apple. Just like in your life when you're going through something, take it to the manufacturer. Okay? People in this world, in social media, did not create you. God created you. So when you feel like you're broken, or you feel like you're not operating at your max capacity, then you need to take it to the manufacturer, because he's the creator. He is the one that created you. He knows every part of you. He knows how you're put together and how you work. So just like I wouldn't take my iPhone to Samsung, you shouldn't take your issues and your problems and your feelings of unworthiness and self-doubt and all of that to social media or to another human. You would take it to your manufacturer because he knows how to fix you. He knows how to fix you. He knows how to get you from where you are to where you need to be. He knows how to get you from nothing to something in a very short period of time. So today, all I am telling you today is that stop being fearful of starting over and stop telling yourself that you're going to quit. Okay? Stop telling yourself that you're going to give up and you're going to quit. Because God is saying that he is a God of starting over. Okay? He is a God that will take what is left and make it enough to bless you with, to change your life with, to put you on a path of beauty. Because he is a God of starting over. So today, I just want to encourage you. I want to encourage you today to believe that what you have left is enough. Believe what you have left is enough. Go out today and be your true, authentic self. Be the person that God created you to be. Stop being who society wants you to be. Stop being who other people want you to be. Become self-aware of that beautiful person that God has created you to be. Start going to him when you have issues and stop going to other people. Prayer is an unbelievable thing. That is the source. That is your charger to your phone, so to speak. Right? If your phone is on 20%, it's not operating at max capacity. It's not operating at its max, right? So we see that when your phone battery starts to get to 20%, we see that it says low battery mode, right? So you'll click on that and then it dims your screen and it shuts down some of your apps and all of this stuff to reserve, right? We don't want to be on reserve. We don't want to be operating on reserve. We want to be operating at max capacity. So it's time to plug your charger in. That charger is your prayer life. It's your relationship with God, because that's where you're going to be operating at your max capacity. When you begin to go to him and say, God, I don't have anything left, I feel like, but I know that what I do have left is enough for you to multiply in my life. So stop telling yourself you're going to quit. Stop telling yourself that you're fearful of starting over, because we know that our God is a God of starting over. He is a God that will take what is left and multiply it in your life to make it more than enough. So today, thank you so much for hanging out with me. I hope that you got value out of this. If you did, please share it to your social medias. And also, I wanted to request that if you do listen to this, if you wouldn't mind going to Apple Podcasts and leaving a review, I would appreciate it. So again, I hope you have an absolutely amazing day. I hope I added value, and I will see you again really, really soon. Bye-bye.